I do believe that that we should use AI even in more simpler basic operations throughout our job. Of course, in cybersecurity, it's a bit a sensitive topic.
Welcome everyone to a new episode of the Top Mentor podcast, and today we have Eva Georgieva, which is a security expert. Welcome, Eva.
Thank you, Victor. Thank you for inviting me.
So tell us, who are you, and what's been your career until this moment?
Yeah. So I'm a cybersecurity engineer. Currently, I work at a company named Telefonica. But my journey in security is really, let's say, wide. I've been in several different roles. When I was starting out, I first worked in in a startup company, and I worked as a cybersecurity analyst there. So there, the main responsibilities were log analysis and incident investigation. After that, since working in a startup allows you to explore several different roles and kind of learn what interests you better. After that, I jumped into pen testing. So mainly web pen tests and then a bit of a mobile pen testing, mainly on Android. And now currently my role is mostly automation security, but it's not such a coincidence because throughout this whole path and switching roles, I kind of was always into trying to be very effective and automate things. So I kind of now feel right in place with this role, and this role mostly encompasses working with tools and developing tools to kind of make the life of the other teams in security easier.
Okay. Okay, no, that's awesome. So I see that this is a very kind of transformative career, like starting from one point and moving to the others. So what's the part or the area you like the most? I assume that the one that you're working on right now, but maybe you have some passion on other ones, because security is a very broad topic.
Yeah, yes, it is. And at the beginning, when I was jumping into security, so I have an engineering background. I finished. I have a bachelor in engineering, but still in our classes, I didn't have a lot of subjects that were cybersecurity related. So it was mostly learning on the side. Like now, I believe there are more that have this topic in mind, but back then it was mostly programming. So then all of the exploration came from the site, and use platforms like TryHackMe or Hack the Box later, and then trying to find some online challenges. And then when you start on those kind of platforms, you kind of get a sense that security is mostly hacking or mostly trying to get into someone else's system, because they're all this CTF style, capture the flag, and it's always kind of like crashing something. But then if you really get into the field, you would see that it's much broader than that, and that actually there are tons of different roles that you can explore. I wasn't aware of most of them. So when I was starting out, even security analyst wasn't quite clear as to what exactly it meant, right? But yes, I think I mean, cybersecurity is different from coding and programming and everything you learn in an engineering school, but it also employs that engineering mindset constantly, and it kind of pushes you to be creative. So I think I was lucky, let's say, to be in many different roles, because it kind of gave me different sorts of mindset. So I kind of first understood what it meant to defend something, and then I kind of was put in a different role of a bit attacking something. So then you kind of get the whole picture. Oh, like this is the mindset of an attacker, or this is what the mindset of a defender would be. And then you kind of interchangeably now constantly think about that. Now when I develop any sort of solution, I kind of like to have the both sides in mind.
Oh yeah, that's like something that I talked in other, well, with other people and in other episode, which was like being cross topic in your area, let's say, and even in other areas, makes you a better professional. Like, especially in your case, like you have your attacker perspective, your defender perspective,
Yeah.
and then when you work on each of those, they are complementary. So like the information flows one to the other. So it's it's very
Yeah.
interesting. I think it tends to apply to everything.
Yes, I think so. But you don't know that when you're starting out, I believe. And
Yeah.
then it's kind of frustrating because everyone says, oh, but then you're not an expert in this one particular field, right? And then you're like, okay, I want to gain expertise in this one thing. But then, of course, and that is great. And I also think it's good to focus on one thing and become better at that, but it's also good to have the other perspectives, just to get the big picture.
Yeah, I think that only if you are very, I would say, if you're either on a very demanding side, and even there, like or you have a talent which is gifted and I would say at a very high level. Like you need to feel that you're very different from other ones in a specific area, and it tends to be very concrete. You should not focus a lot on being a one tool man or woman,
Yeah,
because it will probably not be the best on your career. I think it's great. After all, jobs tend to be more horizontal,
yeah,
especially when you're gaining experience. You stop doing very, coding tools or, defensive or hacking stuff,
yeah,
and you start dealing with customers, stakeholders in general, more architectural perspective, which imply other things. So I
yeah.
agree. I agree on that.
Absolutely. And also then you kind of realize that it's not just about the technical skills, but communication is as well quite important, and being
Mm-hmm.
able to elaborate complex topics in a simpler manner, because then most
Yeah.
of the time you don't work with people that understand your field. So you want to change communication with different departments, different teams, and no matter if they have an engineering background or maybe they're in a different department, it's still there's still different topics, so you would
Yeah.
still need to use a different kind of jargon, and being able to communicate that effectively, I think, is also very, very important.
Yeah. No, I totally agree on that one. So yes, maybe related to this topic, because you mentioned talking to people that may know less or may know have a different perspective. How did you started on the mentoring side, and why you did it? Basically.
Yeah. Yes. So on the question of why I did it, I think it was mainly because of that sense of direction I felt I needed when I was starting out in
Mm-hmm.
cybersecurity, because it was such a vast field that I knew maybe like 10% about it, and then you jump into it, and then you have these plans, but it's very hard when um, nobody maps it out for you clearly. Okay,
Yeah.
these are the possibilities, these are the paths that you can take, so these are the skills you need to succeed in each and every path of that. And I think, I mean, there is beauty in discovering that on your own, but it
Mm-hmm.
really does accelerate your career path and your career success if somebody that is more experienced points that out for you. And I was definitely lucky in my career because I had several, let's say, mentors or people
Yeah.
that were they are guiding me, maybe directly or indirectly. But I think it's different when somebody is there for you for that specific reason, to map out how the field works from their own experience. So I guess that was the main reason that I wanted to start mentoring, because I wanted
Mm-hmm.
to, for someone else to have that kind of a sense, um, especially lately, that I believe for cybersecurity, it's a kind of new era, and people are getting, there are more and more people interested in the field. Um, and I could see that growing throughout the different companies. In the first team, the team was very small, and then years later in a different team it was a bit bigger. Now it's quite bigger, and so yeah.
Oh, that's an interesting point of view, because you have like all this, cybersecurity. I remember a few years back it was a boom, and now with the AI stuff, which is like booming second wave, it's going to be massive. I assume, because I wanted to ask you about this also. Well, even though we're changing the topic, so also it interested a lot of people I think in a very different topic. So like you get this wave of people doing things that before it was either not possible or with required a lot of work, and now you see that with a few clicks you generate in either a document or you find some script or whatsoever. So regarding that, how do you think the AI will impact the cybersecurity side in the next few years?
I think it will, definitely. It's kind of inevitable in a lot of different areas. Currently, it's very fresh and very new. Maybe somewhere where it's to a certain extent implemented, and we can see some implications, is automotive cybersecurity. And let's say, especially cars, and now everything being electric or hybrid, and then a lot of technology is employed. So hacking cars is, let's say, a trending topic lately as well.
Yeah.
But I mean, I do believe that that we should use AI even in more simpler basic operations throughout our job. Of course, in cybersecurity, it's a bit a sensitive topic, as to because you need to be quite more careful. You're dealing with confidential data, and then you need to know what kind of data are you sharing. But then I wouldn't say I hear lately a lot of the word replace. I think it's very hard to replace a lot of things at this point. I don't think it's that mature. But yeah, I do believe that it is smart to employ it in the everyday operations, in an extent to help, in whatever you do. In cybersecurity, we can have it in different manners. But yes, that is my point of view currently. It's very, I think it's very scary for organizations to employ it, and then you need to go through a lot of processes in order for someone to say yes, you can use the tool, because it is still like that. But I do believe with time and yeah, we're gonna, it's inevitable to employ it more and more into our everyday operations.
Yeah, no, I can relate on the permission stuff until you get in a company permissions to process data successfully. And I assume this is something that some people creating products may be missing, the amount of information you may be sending out of your product, and you may not be compliant with some rules. That could be impacting a few years once the regulations are established, because of course regulation are slow, and this is very new, and it's also very difficult to put a barrier on that works, that allows people to develop, but that also allows your data not to be somewhere in Microsoft servers. So yeah, but I agree with the replacement topic. I think everyone. I don't know who says so I had the feeling that people that says that X is going to be replaced are not working in that X position.
Yeah. It's
so I heard about
like that.
yeah, I heard about like a marketing guy told me that developers were going to be replaced by the AI, and I say, you've never designed system architecture in your life.
So
If
true.
an AI could do that from scratch and doing everything with all the requirements, all the processing, which may one day do, and it would be awesome. Because it will mean that we will be doing a lot of more complex things. Then, if you think that now it could do that with Copilot, um, then you have never done something related. So that's the feeling I got. Like replacement, yeah, for creating docs that are
Yeah,
generic, maybe.
writing.
So some writing that is generic based on, so developers wouldn't write documentation anymore. Yeah, that's useful.
Yeah, that's
You
very
instead of bad
useful.
writing, you get an AI kind of length post, and everything is explained. That's beneficial.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I absolutely agree. Like, you hear and you read all this kind of stuff, but then, yeah, it is currently hard to feel like someone else
Yeah,
can sit down and do what I do.
yeah, totally. So yeah, just going back to the mentoring side, I always like to ask these two people that are mentors. So, how was your first experience in the mentoring side? So those nervous, imposter syndrome, whatever feeling you had with your first mentee, and how did it felt?
Yeah, so um, I've started actually mentoring a while back,
Mm-hmm.
and then actually I wasn't calling it mentoring. I was calling it giving advice, sharing my experience. But I've always liked this exchange of information with people, especially in a field where you feel like there's not a lot of, let's
Mm-hmm.
say, so I'm coming from Macedonia, and then there were not, let's say, a lot of cybersecurity professionals. So every time you meet someone, and if they're new or even they want to know something, you're kind of willing to share that experience because we're so few, and you always
Yeah.
like want to help. And then after that, I um, decided to collaborate with this international recruitment organization, and I created a hacking to cybersec course that was
Okay.
specifically for women because the organization targets specifically women.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that whole mentorship thing started from there because I really had great experience teaching, let's say, teaching or for beginners,
Mm-hmm.
someone that is just trying to jump into cybersecurity, or somebody that is trying to switch from a different field to cybersecurity. And there were a lot of one-on-ones, and I met a lot of great people. I never think about mentoring like it's one-sided. I always think it goes in both ways, and that I always learn something from the other person as well, and through the process of how I am elaborating some information. We're always very self-aware, and you kind of
Yeah.
have this sensor in yourself. It's like, I could have said that better, or maybe that's the wrong approach, or maybe I
Yeah.
should read more about this topic. So I think I really enjoy that experience. So that's how I started into this whole mentoring journey.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I've met really great people along the way, and I did learn a lot about communication, about how to approach people, patience as well, which is also when you're starting out, you're kind of, know all these things, and you're very eager for that other person that you're sharing the information with, for
Mm-hmm.
them to get to the next level as soon as possible. But then you kind of learn to that everyone has their own pace, and that everyone has very different goals that they're trying to achieve. So yeah, it's a learning experience, I would say, and that's why I
I totally agree there. The learning that you get from the soft skills that you get are totally invaluable, and I think if internal, well, normally companies have this internal mentorship, but they are tend not to be very promoted. I think it's a very good way for also the mentor to learn how to deal with people, how to teach, how to also deep down in certain concepts, because I assume you have the same feeling, like there would be concepts that mentees could ask you that you could be, okay, I know this, and then when you're trying to teach it, you need to at least a day of prep to okay, if some questions are going, I would need to be able to provide value to my mentee, right? That's a feeling that I also had. But yeah, so in terms of any stories or anything that you have, what do you tend to do with your mentees? How do you approach when you get a request? Yeah, how do you approach it?
Yeah, I have quite a lot of different stories, and yeah, it's been a really interesting experience. But then
Mhm.
I've also learned to navigate it better.
Okay.
Now my process. I mean, even from the beginning, I always wanted to um, match, let's say, with a mentee that I can actually help, that I
Okay.
can actually provide a value to. So I have a little bit of a small questionnaire at the beginning when someone places an application.
Mm-hmm.
That is, let's say, my kind of way of understanding what their goal is. How can I be there for them, and do they actually need me, or maybe I can send them a few resources and then they'll be fine on their own. And once I understand that, then I decide to have the introductory call. And then we see if we are a match actually in that introductory call. If so, a lot of factors need to align. It's not just
Okay.
if I can bring them any value, but also are we in the same time zone? Like if I can provide value to you, but then I'm not available most of the time for you, then it's still not gonna work. And then if we have maybe some language barriers, because
Yeah.
then right, that would also be an issue. So I kind of try and consider everything, so that it's a quite a perfect, let's say, fit. Even though, right, you never know, but if kind of these things align, then I like to set up some metrics. At the beginning, I was more of a hands-off mentor, let's say. Because then, right, mentoring is a lot different than teaching a course, let's say. So
Yeah.
in a course, you have some deadlines, you have some goals, you have assignments, and you finish it, and I arrived from point A to point B, and that's it. In a mentorship journey, it's quite different. So you constantly need to reevaluate, to set new metrics, to maybe shift to see where the mentee is struggling. Maybe what we're talking about has been of value 2 months ago, but maybe it's not now. Maybe they reached some other level, and of course it's very different for everyone. But I do want to have a certain framework that I kind of follow, because people usually like having some kind of a metric, that
Yeah.
they can, or a tracker that they can be able to look at and say, okay, I've learned this skill. These are the gaps that were identified, that are lacking towards my goal, and now
Mm-hmm.
I have done maybe 60% of them. So it's just some kind of a metric or some kind of a tracker that I want to build, and usually it's like I want to deliver this roadmap at the beginning, just so both of us know where what is their goal and where do they want to
Yeah.
arrive. And then, of course, success looks different to everyone. When I was starting out, I was like, okay, I can help this person find a job into cybersecurity, or right, switch careers. But then you learn that that is not what everyone is looking for. You may
Mm-hmm.
lack some skills. They're from a completely different background, and their goal is just to understand how cybersecurity works, what are the different fields, where can they see themselves fitting, and then you just need to give them a little bit of direction into what they need to learn. Maybe they will spend a year or two learning that, but they kind of need to know which road to take. And then, of course, there's some other people that are more ready or have bigger technical skill set, and then you just kind of need to elaborate maybe your view, your experience, or just give them some tips, better interviewing, and so I think it's very different for everyone, and I think it's super important at the beginning to understand with what kind of a person you're talking to, what are their goals, and how success actually looks like to them in this mentorship journey. And once we establish that, then it's constant reevaluating, let's say maybe monthly, bi-weekly, or however.
No, that's an interesting approach. Like having a roadmap. I agree on having everything clear from the beginning, because otherwise you would be readjusting, and it's not something that neither the mentee nor the mentor benefits from. Even though you think you are flexible, you shouldn't be maybe that flexible. So you should be clear from the beginning, get a lot of information, because you are meeting a new person that you don't know anything about, and you don't know how it behaves and how it communicates. So maybe there is a miscommunication. Some people communicate better information, some people are more messy. It is what it is. But you need to know everything from the beginning, and then go ahead and execute the plan. I feel like that way. And also try to, also a very, and maybe you can relate on this, is the constant flow of the mentorship, because sometimes I see that there are mentorships either on on experience I hear, or from the Slack that we read, that some mentees tend to pause and tend to maybe disappear from some time. So I think, how do you keep people there? Because I think that that's a very cross topic, like mentees going in and out and blah blah blah. So do you have any tricks to keep people on the road?
Well, what I've learned, I don't know, it doesn't always work. Let's say this is like clear, I think, to everyone. They're just different types of people, and then there is sometimes nothing you can do about. But I have learned that it's good to have longer conversations on maybe once per week, but to have it a longer conversation, because people often don't have time. And maybe if you're trying to schedule 2 sessions per week that are 30 minutes, maybe that's a bit more inconvenient, and then somebody doesn't communicate that very good. So that can be one of the reasons, oh, I don't have time. It's very time consuming. So I like to make it maybe once per week, but full of content, and then we revision their goals, and then see where they are, and then I like to do a retrospective of what have they done towards their goal the previous week. I think keeping them motivated as to why they first started their mentorship, I think it's a good trick, let's say. I don't think it's a trick. I think it helps both sides, but it is also what works for me as well. I think it would be quite overwhelming if I have a lot of packed sessions rather than one bigger one, and then you understand better, and you actually, the mentee already has more to tell, because let's say a week passed, or maybe a bit more time passed, and then they had some time to pick up on either the skills they're working on, or maybe it was networking, or maybe whatever, right, their goal is, or what they're trying to achieve. So I like to discuss all this kind of stuff, and I still like to keep it to a certain extent, let's say casual, conversational, to actually be comfortable to them, the conversation, right? And then, because at the end of the day, it's their dream, it's their goal, and I can just point the direction, but I cannot push them there, right? It's something that one, but most of the people, right, that are seeking mentorship are willing to go that extra mile. So Right, but then I'm also quite understandable when somebody maybe needs some time off because of work or other things. So I think that's very individual, but you kind of know which person prefers which tempo. I think that's also good to understand.
Mm-hmm.
Because maybe for some people weekly meetings are okay, and they are constantly working on what they're trying to achieve, but for someone else maybe bi-weekly is better. So learning your audience is also, I think, a part of this whole mentorship journey, and just understanding with who you're dealing with better so you can actually be of help.
No, no, that's very. I think that's very valuable advice. You need to understand that people have its circumstances, and also life happens. So sometimes people leave their job and they don't want they want some rest in their life and they don't want mentorship anymore. But also there are people that I also agree with condensed sessions, letting the mentee prepare for it, because maybe if you can join one meeting into instead of having two, it will be also better for you because after all you have like a, let's say, a round time
Yeah.
that you lose always when you have a meeting, either for any cause, and I totally see that. So yeah, I think that's very valuable. And on the, let's say, on these different experiences that you have, do you have any, funny story in terms of, the hackiest thing you've done, or or any request from a mentee that was, specifically either funny or that you can tell, or interesting for you?
No, I think, yeah, I think everyone is very unique in their own way. But I had several mentees, let's say, that they wanted to get into hacking as soon as possible, and then there was like, can you, let's say, hack into someone's website, and let's do a technical session like that, or into what can I hack? Do you think it's okay if I hack into, because let's say someone is working in a school or something, do you think if I hack the school it's going to be fine? So I had all these kind of different conversations, but I also, what I really like is that when people sign up, they also want to learn. So maybe the
Yeah.
question is different, it's not what you expect, or maybe it's funny at that moment, but I like how people approach feedback, right? They're like, oh, okay, that's your perspective, that's interesting, I never thought it like that. And I think it's always an interesting conversation, especially those kind of conversations, because then they get a totally different sense of what they thought it was. uh,
Okay.
when I tell them that maybe hacking is not exactly like that, and okay, that is like, let's say, more pen testing, is that what you're interested in? Web application? Well, let's start with learning the vulnerabilities one by one, and then going deep into one vulnerability and then a different one, and then you can explore some, let's say, different sites where you can test your skills, and then you can feel like, okay, I hacked something, right? So it's I think it's a process, because right, people come from very different fields, and a lot of them are trying to switch into a more technical field, so it's always challenging, and it's not as clear, especially how cybersecurity is, let's say, presented in movies, or like it's always someone hacking and typing fast on a computer, and then the whole network falls off and you're done. But it's yeah, it's reality is very different, and I like that sense of, let's say, innocent approach, because you know it's from curiosity, you know
Yeah.
it's from a place where they want to learn, and they're curious, and they're eager to understand and to be in the field. So always I have usually the best time with those types of mentees, because they're always so passionate and asking so many questions, and super creative. And once, let's say, they get better at their technical skills, it's maybe we do a mutual session of like a mini CTF, like hacking. I do something, they do something. I also like sometimes when I have more time and maybe I work with the mentee longer, those kind of sessions are also interesting, and it's like a learning process to maybe assess to where the mentee is. So it's a more technical session and it's not the usual type, but then it's maybe provides me more feedback into how can I help them in the future better. So yeah, just experimenting a bit, seeing what works, what doesn't work, and then I think it gets the best result. Like trying to also learn from the other person.
Yeah. No, I think that also people tend to do that because that's what they know, right? So if you ask me about hacking, apart from the background that they have on working on security perspective on on the company side, before that, what would I know? Like I would like to hack my neighbor's Wi-Fi, or I want to hack like school servers, things like that. It's it's the first impression that you get, and it's also a good. I mean, it's not people don't do that, please. But it's also the first thing that you get to that wall, and if you actually want to do that, like because of white hacking, that I'm able to do this, I think that's a great approach. Like, okay, I'm able to, and then there is a mentor or a experienced person that say, okay, instead of hacking your school, you can hack a server that you have at home that you can forget the password in one day or something like that. I assume some exercise like that. Okay, put a Raspberry Pi and try to hack your laptop.
Yeah.
Because it's yours, instead of something that could get you out of school.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can. I assume you get a lot of funny stories, especially on security side. So yes, to end up, let us know also what's your plan for the next year? Like, what do you think you'll be doing this next year in terms of what you will be learning? What's your career plans in terms of maybe public speaking or still mentoring or maybe any side projects that you have? So
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I would love to still be mentoring and still be talking to people. Definitely. So from what I want to be learning, I think I can always get better at my own job. And let's say automating currently is what I'm kind of focused on. So just learning, let's say, different programming languages and experimenting and seeing developing some security tools. So that is my main focus currently. But yeah, I would like to attend several conferences on security. I didn't have a chance to do that as much before, so maybe that is also something that because right since Corona started and things like that, everything has been virtual. So all the conferences, all the networking in that part has been done virtually. So let's say one of the goals would be to also attend live some conferences, maybe speak at someone at some conference. So I think it kind of unfolds for me. It has been since the beginning, since I started working. Like when I start working on something, then I have tons of ideas of how can I maybe make that into a project, or can I collaborate with someone on something. So I'm open to all sorts of ideas and stuff like that. So yeah, let's see where it goes.
Yeah, hopefully 2024 it's a very interesting year for you. So and to end, let us know to the audience where they can find you and what they can learn from you if they follow you or if they want to be a mentor of you, a mentor. Sorry.
So yes, I am mainly on LinkedIn from social platforms, and then I have a Medium blog. So there I post cybersecurity related content, maybe some hacks I learned or discovered. something I resolved. So some kind of a research article. So that is what you can read on my blog.
Awesome.
And yeah, so those are kind of the main two platforms that I use for cybersecurity, and you can find me there. And of course, on Mentor Cruise, I hope to meet a lot of new people. So I would really like encourage anyone to not even on Mentor Cruise, but on LinkedIn to have a chat, 15-minute coffee. Everyone that is like either trying to get into cybersecurity, I'm always open for a conversation to give advice, to share my experience, and to also hear something and learn something from the other person. So that's always a good experience.
Yeah, I think you can learn something for anyone, so they will provide you a new perspective. So Eva, thanks a lot for being here. I hope you enjoyed the chat and
Of
that
course,
you have provided a lot of value. I think for people that wanted to start on cybersecurity and want to hack something, how a professional can work on that, and how it could develop into a mentor and a senior on the field. So yeah, thanks a lot.
thank you very much. I had a lot of fun, and I hope we can chat again soon.
Sure. So thanks a lot, and till next time.
See you next time.